Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is your host, Kushalmehra. All right, today we're going to be talking about something different. Like, usually, when we talk about Hinduphobia or Hindumisia or various other terms, we don't look at it from the technology perspective. So, today's podcast is unique in the sense that we're talking about something from the technology perspective. I came across Ram Lakshminarayanan through Harikiranji. Harikiranji introduced us via email, and I was fascinated by this tool that he has come up with. So, Ram, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kushal. Thank you for having me in here, and a very good day to you and your audience.
All right, Ram. So, as this is your first time on the podcast, could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself so that they kind of get an idea of where you're coming from?
Yeah, I am an IT professional. I live in Chicago, so I've been here for close to 30 plus years. I come from an IT analytics background. I'm an IT professional with, as I said, with over 25 years of experience across the board in IT delivery, people leadership, and line management as well. So that's basically on my professional side. And on the personal side or on the passionate side, right? So I am involved in a number of Indic activities. So creation of this tool is one such outcome.
So, if you don't mind me asking, how did you come up with this idea? Like, where did the inspiration come up from? Like, I have to come up with this tool.
All started with Mr. Manishankar Iyer and his Chaiwala comment.
Well, he pissed a lot of people off, I guess.
Yeah, but he motivated me for a change. That's how it actually got started. This was about 8.5 years ago, leading up to the campaign. It was not even after 2014 elections. It was before that. So I had this in my thoughts since then. And then I think about 2 years later, about a year or two later, when I was dabbling around with text analytics, I wanted to do something on NLP and AI, blah, 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 stuff. So I said, okay, yeah, let me start analyzing some of his writings, because his condescending attitude and his toxic attitude towards Modi particularly caught my attention. So I wanted to use text analytics to kind of analyze some of his writings, see what kind of sentiments and emotions he exhibits, blah, 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 all that stuff. So I scraped about 150 plus of his articles on, on NDTV. We used to write on ndtv.com back in the day. So I scraped it, ran through a primitive text analytic model that I built back in the day. This was, I think, in 2016, and then created a visual out of it. It's actually available on public Tableau. There are a few public Tableau visuals that I put up. This was actually one of them. So I did that, and then from then on, that was 2016, 2017. From then on, one thing led to another. I picked up few other text analytic related topics, and finally, given the growing importance of or growing focus on Hinduism, dharmic activities, and attention, anti-Hindu hate was garnering among our own ecosystem, the dharmic ecosystem. I thought, why not focus on this, and that's how it all got started. Kushal. So it's about 8-year-old idea that was planted in my mind, and I have to give credit to Mr. Manishankar Iyer. For a change, I'm not going to abuse him.
Awesome. So, all right, guys. So, how we're going to do today's podcast is that Ram has a presentation ready for us. So, I'm going to put that presentation on the screen now, and Ram's going to take us through the presentation, and then, maybe then I'll ask my questions after I've gone through the presentation with him. So, I'm going to put the presentation on the screen now, and Ram, I hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Kushal. Right. Yeah. Thanks, folks. So I'm probably going to spend about 30-35 minutes, speaking about my tool, and then we will take it from there. As I just said, so the genesis of it began with Manishankar Iyer. So that's where one part of the idea came up. But why this tool, actually, right? So that's actually important to understand as well. Look, there are many entities, many individuals in our dharmic side who kind of work in dealing with this anti-Hindu hate, dealing with this menace of, anti-Hindu hate. There are few advocacy groups, you are well aware of it, in the US as well, that do some grassroots work. Few of them have come up very recently as well. There are some age-old institutions, and folks have started writing about it on different dharmic platforms. Many dharmic platforms have evolved in the last few years, so people are writing about it actually. And there are many webinars and podcasts such as this, such as what you actually do to do this menace, right? So I kind of looked around to see, what value could I add. I wanted to do something different that will complement other people's efforts. So I kind of dug deeper within my own corporate background. I do have a IT analytics background, and based on that, I said, what? Why not implement an analytic solution? And that's how it actually all got started. So I built this tool, launched it in March of 2022. So it's kind of about 6 months to the month actually that we launched this. Okay. Right. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. As I built this tool, I was wondering, how should I position this tool actually? So I'm kind of putting it as a performance management tool for the dharmic ecosystem. As I said, as a professional, I've implemented a number of IT solutions. Performance management being, one of them. Uh, Focus of such solutions is to provide, let's say, a corporate leadership a quantifiable way of measuring performance against certain goals that they may have. Actually. For dharmic ecosystem, we may not have any goals in terms of what we want to do. We may not have any metrics associated with dealing with anti-Hindu hate, but at least we have certain goals. So I thought, we can put together a scorecard kind of solution, which is used as a vehicle to identify performance measures, right? So we can put the, just like how it's done for operations, sales, finance, and other organizations in the corporate world. I thought, why can't we present such metrics to ourselves and share it with our own ecosystem so that we can at least start measuring what we want to deal with actually in the real world. As I was evaluating, so I came up with this concept of scorecard. I started to answer many questions. Why not a scorecard? Why can't I measure it? Why can't I measure it in real time? And what social media platforms I need to factor, so on and so forth. And then I kind of limited myself to just Twitter, just as a starting point. I didn't want to scale up. So just thought, let's just focus on one platform at a time. So pick Twitter, picked real-time measurement of anti-Hindu hate using an AI-based algorithm, and then I said, okay, this is what we're going to come up with. So we came up with what we call as a global anti-Hindu scorecard. It's a performance management tool, as I said, to help direct energy and focus of the collective dharmic ecosystem in order to deal with anti-Hindu hate, to curb anti-Hindu hate. It kind of enables an analytical approach, if you will, to curb anti-Hindu hate. There are many advocacy groups that can possibly use such metrics to help with their grassroots advocacy. That's how I would consider it. It's only going to complement their existing efforts. Yeah. I would welcome the audience to launch the website Hindumisia AI, which hosts the global anti-Hindu scorecard. If you look at it, there are 3 sections in the website. You have a daily section where tweets are sourced and flagged for hate content pretty much on an hourly basis, pretty much on a real time, or let me correct myself, pretty much on a real time or near real time basis, and plotted on a 24-hour chart That's what is the top section of the website. So we do it pretty much on a real time or near real time basis, plots it on a 24-hour UTC clock actually. So that's what we do. And then below that is our daily statistics aggregate on a monthly chart. So if you go today, you will see what 30 days for September. You already have those 30-day September chart. And then every day, as every day completes according to UTC time. So the information that we collect and flag on an hourly basis is kind of aggregated on a daily chart and plotted on a monthly chart. There is also a pie chart that kind of classifies the hate into multiple intensities. Intensity is a subjective classification, if you will. We have it as toxic, we have it as severe and moderate. It's much like a professor giving a grade as either A or A plus. It's quite subjective, you know. So let's say you score 96 out of 100. Some professors would grade it as A. Some of them would probably give an A plus because it's above 95, right? So things like that. It's quite subjective, you know. What I call as toxic, maybe somebody may change the definition. It's quite subjective. So we plot that. So we have two charts. One is an hourly chart. Another is a daily chart aggregated on a monthly basis. That's one. Last section, very interesting section, is something that we added a few months ago, I think May or June of this year. We allow folks, audience, readers to submit tweets to the AI model. So they can just copy and paste a Twitter URL. They can go and then submit it and send it to the engine for analysis. If it's not in there, if it's not in our data set, it will retain that, it will pass it through the engine and then come up and then show what that intensity is, whether it's anti-Hindu or not. So you can see it in our website. So this is how our website is. So these are some of the salient features of our website. This is what the tool currently does. To summarize it, it's basically a real-time tracker of anti-Hindu hate on Twitter 24/7 using artificial intelligence and natural language processing techniques. That's what we do. Okay. Yeah. This question comes up all the time. How did you do it, or how does it work? All that stuff. It's actually pretty simple. We just scan Twitter 24/7. And then, we use a programming language called Python. So Python or R for that matter, any programming language gives you access to a Twitter API. So using a Twitter API, you can you can access all the tweets that were saved. And you go through, you pass certain parameters. So we pass certain relevant parameters so that we limit we only focus on things that we want. Example today, right? I mean, if there are tweets related to Bollywood or cricket or whatnot, we try to avoid them because we don't need to source them anymore. If it's purely Bollywood or if it's purely cricket related. On the other hand, if it's anything that's Hindu related, we try to source it. So we have a very generic, broad-based filtering mechanism to scan Twitter and source tweets initially. We take all the tweets, we run them through the AI model. And if the AI model flags it as anti-Hindu, we retain the tweets. If the AI model does not flag it as anti-Hindu, we don't retain it. Actually, we usually throw them away because we don't want to just store them. They'll just be lying in our hard drives forever. We don't want that. Actually, we just throw them away. Once we collect all these flagged tweets, we just quantify and visualize them on the website. That's what we call as global, anti-Hindu scorecard. So that's how the whole website works. It's 24/7 operation. It's completely automated. There is no manual involvement on a day-to-day basis. Simply for the reason that those who are involved in it are full-time professionals. We have our own day jobs, and we just don't have the time to go focus on it. So we have kind of automated the whole operation end to end so far. The idea that I had, and I do have to acknowledge and say this actually, there's a cricket buddy of mine from Chicago. I do live in Chicago. I have many buddies here, so I have a lot of cricket buddies as well. So he was the one who helped me bring this to life. So I conceptualized the thought, the idea behind an AI model. He was the one who helped me build it. So he's kind of supporting me today pretty much on a regular basis with enhancements and updates, so on and so forth. Okay. Now the question, this is another question that's come up actually. So it's been about what, 6 months since the launch. We launched it in March, right? So one of the questions that come up is, what do you do with the data? So we flag roughly about 45 to 50,000 tweets on a monthly basis. Remember, it's only flagged by the model. It's not something that's validated by us. Obviously, a machine decides whether it's anti-Hindu or not. It could be right, it could be wrong, right? There are certain things machine cannot do. I'll give you guys an example. Let's say, if Rana Ayub says, "How are you?" to you, and I say, "How are you?" to you, the text is the same, right? But the subtext is different. Machine will never know that. We are not even close enough in terms of techniques and the maturity of the technologies associated with text analytics to even decide that. Machine simply does not have that capability. So it's just going to flag it as a very positive tweet or something like that, actually, right? So the same thing holds for anti-Hindu as well. So we do see quite a lot of false positives, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So obviously there is a mechanism that we have put in place so that we could start analyzing all the data set and see how we could produce reports, blah blah blah. As I said, we collect plenty of data, and we hope to be able to turn that into information and discover insights as we actually go along. We analyze the data. We kind of derive simple statistics, convert that into very simple charts for people to be able to understand, make our own observations, and produce very, very simple reports and write articles about it. We actually have two partners today. Mayan Makers, who's part of our, I'm sure you're aware of Mayan Makers. So with Mayan Makers, we publish our monthly anti-Hindu reports. I'm going to be showing some of these reports shortly in the next set of screens. So with Mayan Makers, we produce monthly anti-Hindu reports. And with India Facts, we kind of started very recently, just about a month ago, a series called This Month in Hinduphobia, based on what we see in our data set. So this is how this is how we actually use our data, kind of producing reports, writing article pieces, so on and so forth. So far, there are discussions in place with few other stakeholders to use this data set for academic research later on, but they are still in discussion mode. So as we collect data, we are looking forward to working with more partners to be able to start using the data set and start exposing the information. Our tagline kind of reads: measure, monitor, and expose. Right. So we've been measuring and monitoring so far, trying to ensure that the tool and the algorithm are kind of stable, whatnot. Algorithm can still be improved. The way AI and ML works is, you got to kind of tune and keep improving it on a regular basis. So ever since we launched it, we have not attempted. So I'm actually working in the back end to see how best I can improve our algorithm. But with the data set that's currently there, we have put together a process in place so we can start exposing some of these handles actually. So we have started doing it in our monthly reports and in this month in Hinduphobia series. This is a sample monthly report that's published for the month of August using August data set. This is September, right? So what we do at the end of a month, the first week of a month, I spend time looking at the data set for the previous month and produce some of these statistics. So you see 3 pages in there. So I'm going to help explain what those 3 pages are. So first page, you have aggregate statistics, meaning the statistics are used as is from the model prior to any manual validation of the data set. So what it tells you is, for the month of August, our machine flagged about 45,020 tweets as anti-Hindu, and then you have other allied statistics to go along with it. Actually, daily average, highest, which day flagged the highest, which day flagged the lowest, so on and so forth. And then the trend from the previous month, whether it's changed, whether it's increased, or whether it's decreased, or so on and so forth. And then the section below in page 1 is anti-Hindu intensity, where show the same statistics, kind of sliced and diced based on intensity that we actually labeled or classified with. Actually, and then you also have a trend there actually below that to see how it changed from the previous month. So this
Damn,
is
Audrey is number 1.
yeah. I'll come to it. Yes, yeah. So August 2022. So page number 2, we have this top 15 prominent handles list, right? So this top 15 was not there in previous months. Until July, we never had this section because, I was just trying to figure out how to process all that information to see what kind of charts I could include. So we started piloting top 15 from August onwards. So those are the top 15 prominent handles. It's important to understand prominent handles. It could have been top 30. It could even be top 50. I keep getting suggestions saying, "Sam Ram, you need to do top 100." No, this is all a manual work for me actually. So I'm trying to put together a process in place so that once it's finalized, I can possibly automate some of them. Then it becomes easy to put top 15 or top 30 or top top 50 or top 100 as well. Right? So it's important to understand if you count all the tweets, top 15 prominent handles, right? If you count all the tweets kind of flat for those 15, right, it'll probably be about 250, 300 tweets, not more than that actually, 200, 250, out of a total of 45,000 that's flat. What it actually means is if we have a number of false positives, no doubt, but there are also a lot of troll handles, and I will show you some of those handles. I have identified them here. So, so still trying to figure out, and as we are doing top 15 or top 30 or top N, I should say, still trying to figure out, what's the best way to approach the crux of the issue, actually. Because these prominent handles, they obviously have an amplification factor. Social media being by nature being a dialogic medium, right? So it has its own amplification factor. So personally, one school of thought is, look, we should only focus on these prominent handles. There'll be about 1,000 handles, Kushal, not more than that actually. While we flag close to 25,000 handles on a monthly basis, I'm going to give about 10,000 for false positives, all the Hindu squabbles and all the internal fighting that we have. Let's assume that it's 10,000. For the rest of the 15,000 handles, right? I am thinking not more than 1,000 handles that we actually need to focus on because they have some prominence based on amplification factor. Rest all just troll handles. We may not even have an engagement actually. It's like my personal handle, less than about 200 followers. Nobody cares. You know what I mean. So nobody cares about it, right? So that's what we're still trying to figure it out as to what we want to actually do with the data set that we collect. So that's the top 15 list. The next one, the last page, is general observations over a period of a month. Actually, so you can see a 31-day trend that we put up there as a screenshot, the chart, and then some of the remarks. Remarks kind of include events that kind of triggered anti-Hindu hate. So we go through the data set to see what kind of happened during that month. This is for folks to use. People who are on talk shows, people who do webinars and stuff like yourself. Actually, you can potentially use these reports. You can actually download them. It's available in our website. You can download them, and this is the report. We also partner with My Makers. They also publish this on a monthly basis. So these reports can be used by folks. Methodology is clearly mentioned as well, and in case if people want to use it, they can always reach out to me too if they have any questions or clarifications required. I'm glad to offer them. They can use some of these reports. Okay, so this is one. Then now let me move on to the next. This report is this month in Hinduphobia series. It's a monthly piece that we partnered with India Facts to get going. There's another Indic buddy of mine, Nishant, who is the one who is actually putting this together on a monthly basis. So this month in Hinduphobia series, also it's an article piece where what we do is we share the same top 15 that you saw in the other monthly report. We also highlight some of the tweets from these top 15 handles that probably require some attention, and we also share the handle and the Twitter URL for folks to take action. By action, I mean they can just click that link and go to Twitter, simply report the tweet or report the handle. That's all we are looking for. I think that action from our government side is actually important. Rather than just commenting, rather than just simply whiling away the time and just commenting about it, I think action speaks louder than words. So we would prefer folks to click on the link. So we have made that. So the report will contain the URL, specific URLs. And we have just published it for 2 months now. We'll continue to improve this report as we move along. There's another section in that report, Kushal, is we also kind of highlight some of the more egregious tweets, as you can see. That's the last section that you see, actually. They are from non-prominent handles. So we don't want to ignore the non-prominent handles, because some of the most toxic hate does not come from some of these prominent handles. You have to remember, these prominent handles are sophisticated players. They are, some of them are academics, actually. They won't be so blatant, actually, with what they write. Like what you see on that for the non-prominent handles, right? You're not going to expect Audrey to write that, actually. She'll be a little bit more sophisticated in her anti-Indo hate as compared to some of them. So we do want to highlight those non-prominent handles and some of the egregious tweets from those handles as well. So there are roughly we pick about 10 tweets, we put it. So as I said, we've been measuring and monitoring. Our goal is to start exposing. From a tool set standpoint, that's all we do. That's our strength. So our strength is not in advocacy. We don't interact with lawmakers and law enforcement officials. That's all. So that I'm going to allow for my collaborative potential to deal with. Actually, I'll strike collaboration. I'll work with my partners that I'm talking to right now, so that I can give them the data set. They can do all the grassroots advocacy. What we can do is to find platforms to start exposing it. It's quite possible, I'm working with my makers now. I'm working with India Fact. It's quite possible, I may have a video series too on a monthly basis with another platform. It's possible. We're going to start experimenting with it from next month, so that we can probably have a monthly series. Saying we'll talk about one of the reports that we produce, so that it gives us an amplification medium, just to help us amplify our message. Okay, that's what it is. That's the This Month in Hinduphobia series. Besides this, since August, about a month ago, so we started publishing a number of other top end lists, if you will. So this is the top 35 handles spewing anti-Hindu hate. This is not just prominent handles. This is top 35. I believe it's from the March data set. We did that. See, we collected this data in March. Right? So it was sitting there in our database since then, actually. So we started analyzing them in July, August to see, how best to start producing some kind of chart or report or whatnot. So that's when I decided, okay, why not a top 30, top N? It could be anything, top N or whatnot. So the way we pick up is based on the number of tweets. I may just say, I'll include minimum of 20 tweets per handle or something like that. Actually, I don't want to go below 10. I could just go by a number of tweets that they are flagged with. So we picked about top 35 handles from our March data set. By the time this was published in August, Kushal, 12 of those handles were already suspended. This was collected in March. And
fascinating.
12 of them are already suspended. It has nothing to do with us. I'm not saying, it's because of our tool. That's not what I'm saying.
No, it just indicates the accuracy of the tool, I guess.
Accuracy of the tool, and it kind of proves our point. When I publish this, when I publish this, our friends, right, from Mission Ambedkar, there's a handle called Mission Ambedkar based out of Delhi. They reported me. They reported me to I think Chicago police, Governor Pritzker, Illinois Governor Pritzker, Twitter Chicago, saying apparently saying that I'm running a racist movement. Highlighting some of these handles, blah blah blah, all that stuff. I simply responded to them saying, look, 12 of those handles are suspended. Many of these handles, right? They what do I say? Many of these handles, in the name of caste activism, they just abuse Hinduism, and also Brahmins actually. So I've seen it, I've proven it. So my response was simple. Look, you saying, I'm running a racist movement, fine. 12 of these handles are suspended. Where would they be suspended if I am running a racist movement? So I want to move on to the next slide. So, what I did, as a response to Mission Ambedkar, I put up a top 30 slide later on of prominent handles. There was another top 30 which I have not included here. I responded to them saying, look, again, you have another set of top handles that I have identified. 12 of them are already suspended. I actually tagged them saying, look, these are some of the handles. If you say you are working on your on dealing with caste atrocities, that's fine. You go work on your social justice message, blah blah blah. But do not attack Hindus. Do not abuse Hinduism. Do not attack Brahmins. You go do your social justice messaging, but not in the name of attacking Hinduism, all that. So I actually proved it to them, saying, look, these are some of the handles. As you can see here, these are top 30 prominent handles. This is not from March. This is from the April data set, actually. So we have published it. The idea behind showing these, Kushal, is, we are still kind of experimenting as to what we want to do with some of these handles. So we are kind of figuring out whether it's a top 30, top 35, or top 15 or whatnot. So the pilot approach is still continuing. I think in about a few months' time, as we kind of agree as to what we want to do, I think we'll probably be a lot more clear in our heads as we move along. But these are some of the reports that we actually kind of publishing, and we expect, I wouldn't say expect, we would welcome to work with a few other partners so that we can share these reports. They can also publish it with that platform. There were one or two folks who reached out to me with permission to use some of these statistics, and I gave them permission to do it. I don't know I don't know whether they have already used it or not, but folks are slowly reaching out to me, and these reports that we produce, I can always give them a PDF version for them to use. So these are some example reports that we publish in our platform. Okay, moving on to the next one, right? Okay, now what do we see? What's been our observations? As we produce our monthly report, every monthly report has a remark section where we go identify events that triggered the anti-Hindu. Example for June, right? It was Nupur Sharma's episode, actually, no doubt. When we started testing this in December of last year, we launched it in March, but we built the tool, we started testing it, sourcing data live from Twitter from December onwards. You won't believe, the day we started, it was one day before Modi opened Kashi Vishwanath Mandir. Oh, I think all hell broke loose in the left liberal world. we started flagging so many tweets. We were so happy, actually. I'm like, wow, this is a good test for the model. We thanked Modi for it, because he was the one who went and opened the Kashi Vishwanath Mandir. I believe it was on December 12th or December 13th of last year, actually. I still remember, right? So we've been observing our data set since then. But none of it is new to me, by the way. Remember, we built an AI lexicon. So I have built an AI lexicon based on what I know of is anti-Hindu hate. So I do know what hate patterns are. But this is for folks to understand the things that we have been seeing in the last few months. There is this fear-mongering over Hindutva. They call us Hindu terror, Hindu radicals, Hindu extremism, blah, blah, blah. And the fear over this fake news about Muslim genocide, blah, 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 all that stuff. So there is one whole category of fear-mongering over Hindutva, and then abuse of Hindus' traditions, abuse of our worship, forms of worship, and all the murtis. That's rampant abuse. Calling Krishna, Rama, rapist, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. There's a lot of epithets for us too, right? We are called a Sangi, dung worshipper, piss drinker, so on and so forth. They reserve a special hate for some of our forms of worship. So that's another category that we see. And very important one, under the umbrella of caste activism, there's a deplorable attack, I think, on Hindus and Brahmins per se, especially coming from Tamil Nadu-based handles. And I'm from Tamil Nadu, with the Dravidian bastion there, and a lot of Periyarist and Ambedkarites coming from TN, see a lot of hatred on Hindus and Brahmins, all in the name of caste activism. What I did, I'm not sharing that report here. I picked one handle. That handle comes up as about 4,000 followers or something like that. It came up in our top end list. May not be prominent, but when you have 4,000 followers, it means for something actually, right? Because you have some amplification factor with 4,000 followers. Same story, the person is, I think the handle is based out of West Coast somewhere here, and in the name of caste activism, all that person does is abuse Brahmins and Hindus. That's what we see all the time. So these are some of the observations that we have seen in the last few months that we have been collecting our data set. So we're still trying to figure out what else to do with our data set. Things will evolve as we move along, but that's what we see so far. Okay. All right. Now, another question comes up here, right? So, what do we do with this tool? With the kind of data that we have, with the kind of statistics that we can produce, right? It can be a great tool for stakeholder engagement, right? As you are well aware, Kushal, right? So there are folks who keep refusing the realities of anti-Hindu hate. People simply refuse that Hindumisia or Hindudvesha or Hinduphobia does not exist actually. But that's contrary to the facts. So we are here to educate our stakeholders. Could be lawmakers, law enforcement officials, government officials, think tanks, you name it, social media influencers, people like you. I mean, I know you don't refuse anti-Hindu hate, but there are a lot of others who do, right? So we can use this tool, the data set and the statistics behind it, and the reports that we publish to kind of educate our own stakeholders to the realities of anti-Hindu hate. And it kind of and also we can use this to enable our own Hindus, our own dharmics, who are the ones affected by the hate content, to use them as an amplification medium so that they can reach out to stakeholders within their own community, law enforcement officials, lawmakers, so that there is a tool. They don't have to go hunting for tweets or hate content anymore. We can give it to them. As our reports and articles evolve, we'll be involved in a lot more exposure. So we will have the information required, insights required to enable our own Hindus to kind of involve in activism, if you will, and then you have another set of stakeholders you can engage with them: social media influencers, media personnel, think tanks, and public intellectuals. We can bring them to bear the realities of anti-Hindu hate, help us expose and raise awareness about the whole menace. But that's how I think we can use this tool, form of great stakeholder engagement. Okay? Then, in terms of benefits, I think it kind of becomes obvious now, right? So when we start engaging with our stakeholders with the facts that do collectively, right, it only helps raise our voice. It will amplify our voice. Once we raise our voice, it's very difficult for folks to refuse us. We cannot be refused anymore. People cannot deny the realities of anti-Hindu hate. So which means it will help draw attention. Help draw attention. Drawing that attention, it will lead to elevating our concerns as well. Actually, so it will come into the limelight. People have to start acting on it actually, and hopefully, it will also help influence action as we move along. Our goal obviously is to start seeing results at some point in time, right? We want anti-Hindu hate to be curbed. We want people to have, when we have all these interfaith dialogues and global conversations on peace, stability, blah, 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 it cannot be done under the influence of Hindumisia or Hinduphobia or Hindu Desha. Hopefully, we'll be able to see a curve in anti-Hindu hate, reduction in anti-Hindu trends that we see in social media. So we, as a tool, as an individual, as a tool, we want to play a small part in this. So that's our humble goal. That's basically what we think of as benefits. That's pretty much it, Kushal. So I just want to, offer some, what do I say, closing thoughts, if you will. Look, Hindumisia or Hinduphobia or Hindudvesha, you can use any nomenclature. I'm quite open to all the three. All the three, they are real. They present a clear danger to Dharmic communities throughout the world. There were recent spate of incidents in the US as well as something that's currently going on in UK as well. I think it was in Leicester, I think so, in UK very recently. So it's real. It's just proving that what some of the advocacy groups in the US have been saying all along. Look, the hate that you see in online world will kind of translate into physical violence on the streets. That's what we see. We should all, I think, we should all do what we can to articulate and put forth the realities of anti-Hindu hate based on facts. So, as a data platform, data and I think analytic platform, our goal is to produce the required evidence to start exposing the realities of anti-Hindu hate. It's actually a commitment from our side. So as part of that commitment, we will continue to enrich some of the reports and articles that we publish. We are actually, as I said, we are already working with some of our stakeholders. We'll continue to look for additional partners and stakeholders so that we can help improve how we start exposing anti-Hindu hate that we see in our online platforms. I'm kind of in discussions with few stakeholders to establish like a long-term relationship wherein we can provide our data set for further use for advocacy efforts as well as for research and analysis. I'm talking to one or two academic researchers as well. They are interested in pursuing this thread. I'll be working with them in the coming months and years to be able to do that. Actually, sure, there are many of them that I talk to are my well-wishers as well. So they want this tool to be effective. Now that the tool has been put together purely on a voluntary basis, they want this tool to be effective. And I'm sure, Kushal, we'll probably make progress on all these fronts over a period of time. And that's pretty much, what I wanted to share today. I do want to thank you for providing me the platform. I thank your listeners for listening in to the podcast. And I'm truly grateful for the opportunity. Okay. Thank you so much.
So Ram, I have a few questions. So first of all, when this algorithm decides what is fed into it, like the algorithm must be having some basic definitions provided to it, right? What qualifies as Hindu hatred? So how does one come about? Like, how does the algorithm pick up? I'm just out of curiosity, because
Yeah.
that's an objective decision that is taken by the algorithm itself, right? So who what are maybe we can talk about those parameters. That was the first question that popped up into my mind. I have a couple of more, but I wanted to understand, like, how does because the more accurate the objective standard is, the better the results would be, right?
Yeah, yes, Kushal. See, the AI model that I have built, it's kind of proprietary, so I have not shared it with the outside world. Having said that, we go through, when you put together an AI model, a text analytic model, right? So you build certain lexicons. Those lexicons kind of determine what you want to capture. So it could
Hmm.
be hate, it could be any sentiment, it could be a hate context, fear context, so on and so forth, right? So it's context based, it's not word based. When I say I'm not looking for a particular word in a tweet, actually, I
Fair
look for a
enough.
context. I
Yeah,
look for
that's
a
why I'm trying to understand it better.
look for a context, actually, right? And then AI models and ML, AI deep learning models. This is based on a deep learning model, actually, not ML, actually. So based on neural networks, actually. So we when we collect this AI models, uh, let me put it this way, actually, data science, is not exact science. It's probabilistic science, actually. It's based on probability. So you get a lot of confidence scores. So model, it's not a flat model. I mean, it's a pretty complex layers involved in it, actually. It comes up with its own confidence scores at different levels in the game. And then it's kind of up to us to interpret what these confidence scores are to determine what is Hindu hate or what is not anti-Hindu hate. So when I put this model together, I used about 1,500 tweets to validate the model before it actually got launched in March. Now I have 300,000 tweets to validate it. I just don't have the bandwidth to, run through 300,000 tweets. So I'm looking at certain optimal ways to be able to do it. I'm working on it. But that's what it is. So you feed certain context and kind of interpret it to determine what is anti-Hindu hate, what is not.
And does the model also like learn by itself? Let's say it picks up a mistake and somebody flags that I think this does not qualify as Hindu hate. So if is there a mechanism there that somebody can flag it or something openly that I don't think? Let's say it states all the tweets that it has collated. I'm just asking because
No
I'm
problem.
trying to understand it. So let's say it collects a set of 200 tweets that the model thinks are anti-Hindu, and let's say for hypothetical scenario, three may not qualify as anti-Hindu. So if somebody goes and points out to that model, hey, I don't think so, you've picked the right tweet, would it start learning by itself too?
Not by itself unless I initiate that learning. What I call as it's a supervised technique that I use where I have to train the model. So if I have to train the model, see, these were some of the challenges that I had. Good question, Kushal. I had certain challenges in building the model. There was no customized anti-Hindu data set, right? So it's not available. So I had to train it on a very generic data set that was available. So we did that.
Says a lot about our community too, right?
Yeah, but one of the goals for me, Kushal, is right. I want to be able to build that customized data set. So I'm collecting it. It's like a chicken and egg problem. I don't have that, right? So I have to build it. When I'm building it, I also have false positives. So I want to make sure my data set is clean before I feed and retrain that model. See, I'm not an expert in AI, machine learning, or deep learning techniques. So there are some operations that maybe Netflix and Amazon, they probably do improve their algorithms, or they probably retrain their model every week or every month or something like that. I do not know whether I can do it. I do not know whether I have the data set to be able to make that needle change, and I don't think I can make that change every month or so. I'll have
that
to
that
wait
was going
for.
to that was going to be my follow-up. What if somebody watches this podcast and they are into something like this, they want to stay anonymous but they watch this, can they use those handles and reach out to you and volunteer and help you out and say, Ram, I think I can help you in improving this model and make it more accurate?
Definitely, people have offered me already, Kushal. The only challenge is, yes, I'm ready to take that help. The only challenge is, right, I'm not willing to share my model because the model is kind of proprietary. I'm not going to share that
That is
model.
perfectly understood.
I'm trying to figure out how to collaborate. without having to share what that model details are. I've been advised. I was advised by one of the academics here in the US not to publish the model. I was, in fact, the whole website that you see was going to be completely different. It was going to have all the model related information, something that folks can understand, the hate patterns and all that stuff. I was strongly advised not to do it. Then I have to go scratch my, I had to go and scramble to figure out what else I can show instead of not showing the model actually. Then we came up with this 24-hour clock and all that stuff actually. So I was strongly advised not to do it. So I'm keeping it kind of under the wraps for the time being, so that I can go and capture as much as I want. And see, once you know how the model works, people can trick you too actually. So I don't want that.
All right.
That's
So, I have to ask you this question because I 100% sympathize with you when it comes to the anti-Brahmin hatred that is spewed from specific handles in Tamil Nadu. But there's also, and I believe this is also anti-Hindu hatred, where you have specific slurs, and these are not emanating from, let's say, anybody else. These emanate from within India, and these are slurs specifically directed there against other castes also. Like you have slurs against Dalits, slurs against uh, the Vanvasi community. So would the model pick that up too and start flagging them? Because at the end of the day, they are Hindu, so that would also be anti-Hindu hatred, right? If those slurs are
Yes,
used.
yeah, we will pick that actually. If it's anti-Hindu, we will pick it. As simple as that. If it's anti-Buddhism, we won't. But if it's anti-Hindu, the model should pick it up.
All right. So like I don't know how to say it, but there is this particular brand which is claiming to be Hindu, but it is basically on steroids. I don't know what do I say, and most of their ire is directed at other castes, and they are the mirror image of the Periyarites. They are the Periyarites of the other side. I don't know how else do I say it. And just like the Periyarites, they ruin the case for decent people like us who just want to be Hindu. That's all. We just want to
That's
be
it.
Hindu.
That's it.
And I hope and pray that your model starts picking it up, and maybe what it will help people to understand is that at a statistical level, a lot of times the left tries to paint this picture, and understand where I'm coming from. The left tries to paint this picture that Hindus are castes of the highest order. Now, the Pew Research polls actually categorically stated that caste is becoming more and more irrelevant, in at least in urban India, in the context. And even when it asked self-identified SC/ST folks about how much caste discrimination they're facing, the Pew polls clearly suggested it is reducing in India. It is clearly reducing. But if your tool can actually start picking this up and maybe show that, look, these are the so-called Hindu handles that consistently peddle, and in a larger scale, the hatred is very much coming from this corner and it is statistically insignificant, I think it would add to the case against the left narrative. It's just my suggestion. It doesn't have to be taken. I'm just sharing it.
No, no, I welcome your suggestion, Kushal. I mean, as I said, we flag 50,000 tweets every month. I have everything that I need to be able to go and analyze. It is these perspectives that would welcome as feedback, so that I know what I can go, because I'm looking for certain standard things, but perspectives from you that will help in responding to a narrative. Right? If there is a narrative against Hindus, the left liberal narrative that you just mentioned, if it's going to help, I can use it as an opportunity to see what they are and probably produce the data set required, and then
Yeah.
perhaps even share it with you. You never know. Maybe share it with you. Share it with
If you share it with me, I would be happy to write about it and speak about it if I get such kind of a data. Because what I found fascinating, even in the reports you showed us, a lot of these handles, like I would want to look at the analysis and break it down through geography. Obviously, CJ Watermelon, I call him Watermelon. I never call him by his name. He's a watermelon. So watermelon pops up in every single chart. Like, he used to sitting there full time hating Hindus from the bottom of his heart. I mean, Hindus should be grateful to him. Nobody has found another hater like in anywhere on planet Earth like watermelon, as for us.
And there's one more, Kushal. One is watermelon. There's another professor from, I think, Missouri somewhere. Remember the Khalid Baidoun, the guy?
Oh,
That guy.
Khalid, yeah.
Oh,
That guy also.
he is among. I think he quickly raced to the top.
Yeah, so that's the thing. See, so these kinds of analysis actually help. Like Audrey is one clear baiter from
Mm.
Rutgers University, and another question that I had: did you go through the Hinduphobia report that the Rutgers University published itself through their lab?
Yes, Kushal, I'm in discussions with them. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
and I'm glad that you are in discussion with them because they actually did something very similar to what you've done, and they were looking at 4chan networks and stuff like that, and they had come on my podcast too, and they spoke about the report. Both Parth and Prasiddha had come on the podcast, and they did talk about it, and. It's actually good. These tools are very good. In fact, these tools could be used by lawmakers and agencies across the world. And one more request, if I can officially make on the podcast to you, is start looking at Khalistani handles if you can.
Oh, I see it all the time. I have everything, Kushal. What do you want? You tell me. I will
Good.
give you. I
Because
have
if you
it.
look at a statistically significant anti Hindu hatred emanating,
Hmm.
you'll be pleasantly surprised how many are Khalistanis.
No doubt. The as I said, you know what? It's been about a month since I started publishing all these top end lists, right? So I didn't limit myself to just prominent handles. I looked at generally what was available. Khalistan was among the top, no doubt in my mind.
I told you. And and when I
The
talk
top
to
people.
my and when I talk to my NRI friends in America, I always tell them, like, can you believe that it has come that for us Hindus now the biggest threat is our own people, our own. These are our own people. They are our own flesh and blood. And
Yeah.
for us living in the United States of America, living in Canada, living in the United Kingdom,
Hmm.
who would have thought that the biggest threat, even sometimes physically, not just on the internet, like what happened in the Swaminarayan temple recently, right? In Toronto, the Swaminarayan temple was vandalized. The Gandhi statues get
That's
vandalized all
true.
the
Yes,
time.
yes, yes,
I
yes.
mean, these are our own people doing it. And if there was a statistical analysis done and that could show that, look, this is the reality, that there is this element. And, you know, the reason is that if your tool picks it up and there are proper reports done of analysis and then they are shown to American lawmakers and Canadian lawmakers, like, what the hell are you guys doing about it, man? I mean, these people are clearly spewing anti-Hindu hatred. And if you keep ignoring it, things are going to get bad, from bad to worse. And always remember the trickle down effect of what happens on social media to emanating into the reality. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go around killing Hindus willy-nilly, because there is a law and order based society over here. But the point is, even one temple attack or even one Hindu hurt, like, I'll give you another example. Imagine the kind of affairs there are in Brampton, that Raman Vasudev, there is a report a few days ago about Raman Vasudev being assaulted, physically assaulted right outside his house. He's running for a council in Brampton, right? In
Hmm.
Brampton. Now everybody knows who's the attacker. Everybody can make a guess who the attacker is.
Hmm.
Even Raman Vasudev does not mention it.
Why?
It is what it is, Ram. It is what it is. And this is why, if your tools can flag these things, like I said, to counter the left narrative that yes, there is casteism in India. Nobody denies that there are castes. But the point is, we need to statistically validate some of the claims that are made. And if your tool can be used to statistically validate and also show to the American and Canadian lawmakers that, listen, you're ignoring this threat to the Hindus and it is emanating from this section in your own society. If your tool can be used to do these things, it would be fantastic, actually. And it will be evidence based, is what I'm trying to say.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's, yeah. I do see a lot of Khalistani hate for the Hindus in the data set. I see quite a lot.
Yeah.
And some of them are probably suspended handles. Some of them are, which is good, which is what we want. That's what we are looking for, actually. But yes, yeah. I'll keep this in mind, Kushal. So when I'm actually looking at our data set for other means, see, one of the disadvantages of Twitter is, I cannot rely on geographical information because of privacy concerns, people don't share their location, whatnot, in their
Mhm.
mobile, right? So the location that's put up there, I can put up whatever I want. I mean, it may not be true, right? So I cannot take it for granted. So that's why I do not do any geography analysis. Instead of the 24-hour clock that you see on the website, the original idea was to put up a Twitter world map first. Put a Twitter world map. It's like a heat map of Twitter hate for anti-Hindus throughout the world. And I wanted a map that showed Tibet separately. That's what the specs. It was listed in my specs to my buddy. I said, find a map that has Tibet shown separately, and then let's just try to. And then we analyzed about 100,000 tweets. This was during our testing phase, when we were trying to figure out how should we quantify and visualize it. So we looked at about 100,000 tweets, and hardly 1,500 to 1,500 or 2,000 tweets had good location information, something that's reliable. So see, if you go to Hindumisia's handle now, I put Chicago. So it's reliable, but how do you know it's reliable? Actually, right? You need to be able to validate. There's only certain things you have to just take it for granted, right? It's for face value. I can't go and So that's one of the limitations of Twitter. So location information is not. But I am working on something else. I'm working on something else to see how I can allude to it. So we have time information. So time zone can give you that information. May not be accurate, but time zone can kind of lead you to a particular geography. So I'm looking into it. Let me see what I can come up with. That's one of the things. That's one of the charts that I want to experiment. So I'm kind of in experimenting mode right now. Top end, this and that. I like to do a scatter plot, kind of, identify relationship between two variables or two parameters, things like that. So many things are going on in my mind. So hopefully, I'll be able to come up with some additional charts and visuals for folks to easily understand the hate trends that we see.
And just one more suggestion. You don't have to do it. I'm not saying you, but another trend that I want to maybe eventually in the future talk about, and this is going to be the theme of my talks in the future in North America. I'm always going to raise this question: is every time I'm raising this as an example is because I'm in North America right now. No other reason. This model could be applied in India equally too. See, what happens is so there is this standard Twitter thing, right? Where we show, look, this incident happened, this guy stayed silent, but this incident happened, this guy spoke up. The same person.
Yeah. The hypocrisy. We expose the hypocrisy.
Now, I look at things from a completely different perspective. Like my biggest grouse with the Hindu community, and when I say the Hindu community over here, is that the prominent Hindus cutting across Republican, Democrat, media, landscapes, stand-up comics, is the utter disgrace they are when it comes to not even having the basic decency to condemn anti-Hindu attacks. When Hindus are attacked, they don't even mention it. And if eventually one day, if I could basically do an analysis of their content and show how they will speak about different things, but when it comes to an attack on their own community, they don't even have the decency. So I'll give you to even mention it. That's how pathetic they are. And I want to show the mirror to our own people that, look, these are your heroes and they are pathetic. They are pathetic. They will be the first to abuse Modi without reading one word of the BJP manifesto. They don't know anything about India. And I say this with full responsibility. They are dummies. They are dummies of the highest order. And they do this. And if eventually I could get a tool that just shows these people, like, this is what you spoke about this issue, and this is what you spoke about this page is empty. It says a lot about you as a person. And I think these are the things that eventually we need to do. And data is the only solution.
That's true. Yeah. Some of these people, especially they belong to the Democratic Party here, and they are influenced by, Council of American Islam Relations. Okay? No doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it. They were involved in, I think many of these lawmakers are influenced by them. All our Hindu lawmakers, supposedly Hindu lawmakers that we have, Pramila, Rokanna, just to name a few.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Not just Pramila or Rokanna. I'll give you an example. Let's say stand-up comics of Indian origin. I can show you instances, even if there are 2 or 3, that they would have made on other attacks or other community things. But they will never do it on their own community. And I just wanted to do, before I always had a hunch, but I can only go through one handle physically. Like I can't sit through the entire tweet set. And but I was able, it's like it took me painstaking amount of hours to go through few of these people. But for
Mhm.
me to have a robust case that and show it to the community that you made these people your leaders.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
The community has to sometimes raise their question. Like in India, we do that now. We expose the hypocrites on a daily basis. I'm hated by all. I expose the hypocrites on our side also, by the way. And I have come to a point where I don't even know. I get abused by everyone, so I'm kind of numb to it now. But people can't accuse me of one thing is that not having a principled stand. Which is why the first thing I requested to you was that I completely support the analysis of the Periyarites, but I would also want the analysis of the Dalit haters, which are also inside the Hindu side. Because
Definitely.
I know there are Dalit haters inside the Hindu side, and I would want both to be exposed. Because for me, and I'm an open supporter of Hindutva, so people even can't say that I'm a hidden supporter of Hindutva. I am an open supporter of Hindutva, and the
Mhm.
Hindutva movement is what look. You can have your identities, whatever, but the point is we are all Hindus first, and and
That's
and
true.
and, and everything else is primary. Being Hindu is secondary, and being Hindu is primary. But and I'm actually grateful to you that you have come up with this tool, and I hope, and I definitely will try to work with you in whichever way possible. I'm actually very impressed by the tool, to be very honest. I find it very useful in my analysis and in many things that I would want to do in the future. So you'll definitely hear from me, annoying you on email.
Thank you, Kushal.
So I'm conscious of your time, Ram. So before we wrap it up, maybe any last things that you want to say, any message for my viewers or listeners that you have.
Well, as I said, on my closing thoughts, I'll kind of repeat a few things. I think the onus is on us to act to counter the menace of anti-Hindu hate. When we start publishing, at least from the Hindumisia AI side, when we start publishing reports and stuff, please do review those reports. We will probably mention certain handles or tweets that require reporting. We just need to mass report. That's all my expectation is. Actually. Rest of the stuff we will already work with our advocacy partners to be able to act on some of these at a different level. But at least for all the readers and audiences of your podcast, please do review our reports that we publish. And if you see a handle or a tweet that's anti-Hindu that you think needs some attention, you can actually submit it to our model, or if you or simply report it. And, mass reporting helps. I have reported a number of handles in the recent past, and I get a notification, few months later from Twitter saying we found it to be correct or we found it to be wrong, but they do actually act on it. And for simple fact that we publish these top 30, top 35 with no involvement from our side. We already find 12 of the top 30 already suspended. So it actually means, people are actually caring for what is anti-Hindu hate. I'm glad that Twitter is looking at this as well. They may be troll handles, but at the same time, you know, glad that it's being looked at. So my request to your audience is, when you see anti-Hindu hate, simple, just report it to Twitter. Don't abuse them. Don't involve with that tweet. Do not engage with that tweet. Simply go use Twitter's own mechanism. Simply report. That's all. And then do follow
Perfect.
me. Do follow me on Twitter. I'm more active on Twitter than on Instagram. So please do follow me. I would need your engagement support. That's all
Perfect.
on
Perfect.
this life.
So, Ram, once again, thanks for coming. This was a very interesting presentation. I'm very hopeful of that this tool that you have developed actually gets even more refined, and more precise analyses are taken. And eventually, I think the real victory will for your tool, in my personal opinion, will be when data sets from this tool are used and put in actual reports that are peer reviewed and published in serious papers, and then are picked up and are shared then after those peer reviewed papers into articles. I think that would be the ultimate victory. Or maybe podcasts sharing reports like this. I think that should be the ultimate goal, and I sincerely hope that happens. So once again, thanks for coming and chatting with me, and I wish you all the best and all the success in the future.
Thank you for having me, Kushal. Appreciate it. Thanks. Namaste.
All right, guys, we'll wrap today's discussion up. So if you want to follow Ram, all the social media details will be in the description of the podcast. It doesn't matter if you're watching this on YouTube. I know the audio ones will be like, yeah, Kushal, you've put in a presentation, but I mean, I can't help it. You I think even without the slides on audio, you'll get a gist of what he's talking about. So not like it's a major thing. And if you want to, if you're an audio listener, you can always reach out to Ram, and on social media he can share those slide decks with you, or you can go yourself on YouTube and maybe look at the slide decks that he had shared. As far as I'm concerned, you guys know the drill. Please subscribe to the Cārvāka podcast YouTube channel. You can like this video, you can leave your comments over there, and please support the podcast by becoming a member on YouTube, or becoming a subscriber on Patreon, or buying the merch, or sending your donations to UPI. I will see you guys next time with another interesting guest and another interesting discussion. Until then, namaste, take care, bye bye.